Okay, welcome to Into the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football. I am your host, Dino DeCespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
I'm feeling all right, buddy. I think we have ourselves a de facto cup final to look forward to, and I guess also a de facto third place match, if you want to call it that. But I'm looking forward to watching it all and chopping it up with you about it.
I like it. Yeah, hopefully, the U.S. can come out on top. Ipso facto, another cup, and then we're on our way. And great call in the third place match. Yeah, Colombia and Australia are both -5 goal differential, no wins, no draws, 2 losses. So yeah, we will get a definitive third place winner and also a definitive SheBelieves Cup hoister. Very excited about that. That one going down Wednesday. And some good news. We will be live. A little bit of ITC after dark. How about that? Immediately or pretty close to it after the game wraps, your boys will be turning the mics on, going live. It'll either be really happy or maybe a little somber or maybe a little bit of both. We'll see. But should be a lot of fun. Make sure you're locked in for that. 4 matches down, 2 to go. A lot of different places we can start the show. But Mr. Grant Engel, where do you want to get started?
Let's get started with USA 2, Australia 1 in a match that featured an entirely rotated lineup for the United States of America. Not a single player who started versus Colombia started versus Australia. And I felt like the play reflected those changes. I think in this kind of tournament, though, it's a logical strategy to take where you kind of take these big swings in terms of just like starting 11 construction. And the fun parts were that the team still gets to play for a trophy on Wednesday, so that's nice. And then secondly, Emma Hayes gave us plenty to discuss in the meantime. So I'm curious, before I start, will you tell me what was your biggest takeaway from the Australia match?
I definitely saw a little bit of the same. I think the chemistry was lacking. We had talked about on the last episode, hey, maybe we see some new injection here, some new players, some new combos. Didn't think that we would go 11 for 11 with regard to the lineup reshuffle. And I think a couple things really jumped out, and I think we'll talk about them a little bit in this episode, but I thought Emma Sears right out of the gate, a real difference maker and a tough assignment versus Ellie Carpenter. I mean, I think that was the matchup of this one. It was so cool to see those two players go head to head so many times. I think it was just like there was a Sears Carpenter duel. I think every 30 or 40 seconds. It seemed like it was pretty awesome. Yeah. I thought Claire Hutton was really, really sharp. I think Hutton and Sears were probably my players of the first half. And I thought, a player like, I kind of hate to kind of get here so early, but I thought Jaden Shaw took her a while to kind of get into rhythm properly. There were some spots early where I kind of felt like she was ripping shots when she had opportunities to kind of like lay it off to either Thompson or Sears. And then that had a follow-on effect because I think later in the match, when she did try to like play make and kind of like, create for others, her calibration was just like a little bit off. Sure. But she did have that super slick ball to Sentnor really, really late in the match. So we kind of did see like more, vintage Jaden Shaw or as vintage as from a USWNT standpoint.
Right.
But it did take a minute. And I think that was a function of kind of what you mentioned, the chemistry, just taking a second to kind of like coalesce here.
Yeah. As vintage as you could see from a 20-year-old player, but I understand exactly what you mean. But before we go any further, speaking of vintage, let's go with these frosty beverages that are aged to perfection. No doubt. We've waited too long to crack these.
Yes. Cheers to you. Cheers to the USA.
The U.S. women's national team. But yes. And cheers to you, buddy. The feeling is mutual. But yeah, I think we should get to Shaw because we can always go backwards a little bit. I thought Shaw played really well as the game progressed, to your point. I liked the passes that she was making, especially late in the game. You mentioned the pass in the middle to Sentnor. I thought she just started to distribute a little more naturally, kind of got her wits about her as the game developed. Yeah. And you could already see, I know I said it to our guy, Mike Watts, in our NWSL preview when we talked about Jaden Shaw. People have those questions. Is she a 9? Is she a 10? Is she a 9.5? The reason those 9.5 or 10 questions exist is because she has some of those pieces in her game, and I thought it was evident, especially late.
It's funny, like in other sports that we have that term like a tweener. She's not really a tweener. She's more of like a can do both.
Yeah,
but weirdly on this team, she's not the best 9. She's not the best 10.
Right.
So it sort of kind of puts her in a little bit of a tight spot. And I think that's kind of what Emma Hayes is going to have to kind of figure out here.
Yeah, and I think which it was the Columbia match. I just want to make sure I have my lineups right here. Yeah, of course. In the Columbia match, they play Heaps at 10 naturally, where she typically plays, and then Macario at 9.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we know Macario often plays 10 at Chelsea. So now we have two players, and I would say Macario is because of experience and just general like playing competitive ball at a high level. Macario is definitely a superior number 10 to Shaw. But I think it's probably a little closer between them at number 9. We keep throwing around these numbers. The fact of the matter is, Shaw is incredibly fast. She can push the pace. She fits well when she has some other fast players around her. I like like you mentioned, the combination that she had with Sears and Thompson. I thought that worked all right. I think I saw some mixed reviews about Sears' play on Woso Blue Sky, but I'm with you. I thought Sears played pretty well, especially in the first half. I like that matchup. I like that she's a youngish player who's going right at Carpenter.
Yeah, it's anybody who did take even the slightest bit of issue with Emma Sears' play. She's going against a world class defender in
Right.
Ellie Carpenter and kind of giving her the business. I mean, sort of creates that first goal. We're talking about Jaden Shaw too,
Yeah.
who gets the assist to Lynn Biendola to kind of get them on the board. But Sears, a young player, a player with less experience internationally,
Sure.
is going at Carpenter like that and creating and like just kind of giving Carpenter fits. I mean, like that's not something that we're used to seeing, like kind of even in the Champions League. I thought Sears was really good.
Yeah.
I thought she put a lot of pressure on Australia. I thought she just was kind of a handful. And I think the Jaden Shaw point, to kind of rewind back a little bit to Shaw, she's a matchup nightmare. Whether or not,
Yeah.
she kind of like hits, max productivity in a match, she's somebody that you have to account for and somebody that puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the defense, can pass, can shoot. But yeah, I thought Sears was great. And as mentioned, Sears and Hutton, those were my players of the first half.
Yeah. Great call on Hutton. I thought that, as the game went on, she got put in some pretty tricky spots at times, was mostly able to cope with those. So for her, especially at her age, she's 19, to be a teenager out there dealing with Australia, veteran Australia players, Caitlin Ford running right at her.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was a very solid performance from Hutton. We'll get into it. But I think if you get put in a tough spot and you need to sub on a defensive midfielder in this de facto final versus Japan, I don't know, she might get a look.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. And speaking of subs and 9s and 10s and, who's going to be playing where and who should be playing where, I thought we'd have a little fun with this one. So this lineup situation worked out beautifully because we got real looks at almost all 23. I think all 23 players have seen the field over these two matches. And with the final looming, gives us the opportunity to maybe have a little fun constructing a lineup, channeling our own inner Emma Hayes to kind of put together an 11. We haven't synced up on this except for the idea of actually doing it on the show.
Sure.
So I'm excited to see who you have for your 11. I'm excited to share my 11. And then hopefully we can, jam these things together like Voltron and put together a killer lineup that can really keep Japan up at night, in a cold sweat, I'm sure.
That's right.
So I want to go back to front and I want to kind of kick it to you. Well, let's hit the goalkeepers and then let's jump to the back line and have the conversation, build out that back line.
All right. You heard us, Nils Nielsen, manager for Japan. We're going to put together a lineup. Obviously, we know Emma Hayes watches the show, and then she's going to take some of our advice. And you're in trouble, Nils. I might be butchering his first name. He's Danish. I think it's Nils. I don't think it's Niles. No disrespect to the guy. All right.
No disrespect to the guy. Nils, Niles thing.
Whatever. I think I know what it is. Anyway. All right. We'll start with goalkeeper. I thought Mandy McGlynn was fine in the second game. She had a couple good punches that I thought were pretty impressive. I could see why she was out there. But I think Jane Campbell's the choice here. The experience, size. I just trust her back there, if that makes sense.
Totally agree. Yeah, you might be able to make a case for McGlynn. I think she played fairly well. Is younger, maybe has a like more of an inside track on the kind of like the future of that goalkeeping position. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think a game of this magnitude probably want to have Jane Campbell back there.
Okay, now let's do a little formation talk. So when I put together my 11,
Uh-oh.
As you know, as I am one to do, I put together a 4-2-3-1.
Bingo.
Where did you land?
Same place.
Okay, awesome. All right. How do you want to do this? Do you want me to do my back four and then you do your back four, or do you want to go one at a time?
Yeah, let's go one at a time. Well, we'll do left center backs and then right back.
Okay, I like that. My left back, Giselle Thompson.
Oh, wait, is she on the left or the right?
She play both. She primarily plays left in NWSL.
Nice. Okay.
She is right-footed though. With
All
this
right.
this lineup, a little righty heavy, but I'm going to play Thompson at left back.
Okay, I like it. Yeah, and I kind of struggled a little bit at left back because I was probably just kind of limiting it to Dunn versus Neiswanger.
Sure.
But I love it. Let's get Giselle in there. I thought she had a tremendous game.
Yeah, she's good.
I mean, she looked electric. One of the players of the match for me too. I mean, she gave Australia real problems.
Yeah, she's another player who plays bigger than she is. I like her toughness a lot.
Super tough. Yeah, love it. She was definitely in my 11, so we're off to a killer start. All right, let's hit our center backs.
All right.
Well, I'll go first here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So first match, we obviously get Tara McKeown, Emily Sonnet. Second match, we get Emily Sams, Tierna Davidson. Now, I am probably the preeminent Emily Sams fan podcaster, maybe on the planet. Yeah, probably on the planet.
Yeah, I'd say.
But I thought Sams struggled a little bit. Kind of
Yeah.
a little indecisive, not super duper sharp. Could be a function of the chemistry issues. I'm not sure if she's gotten minutes with Tierna Davidson, but it wasn't just that connection. But I think just wasn't on point. I think defensively she did mostly all of the right things, and again, it's international, so I think we saw a lot of good players across all four teams. Maybe not hit the level, and I probably think Sams was in that camp, but I would still give her the nod. I think I would go Davidson, Sams, and I kind of do like Emily Sonnet as a potential sub,
Sure.
just because of the versatility. So if you start Sonnet, who's got all the experience, you sort of take her off the board as a potential sub. You're kind of locked into that. I'm not sure you could put Sams anywhere else on the field but at center back. So for that reason, I would go Sams Davidson.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Am I screwing up the rules of this? I thought we were each picking our own. Or did you tell me who your left back was?
Oh, good call. So I had Crystal Dunn at left back.
Okay.
And I think just because it's Japan, Dunn defensively, also super tough, super experienced, not going to get rattled, can cover a lot of ground on the field. I think Crystal Dunn brings a lot. But if you slide Dunn obviously to the bench, it's the same kind of Emily Sonnet corollary. It's a super versatile bench piece that Hayes can kind of put in multiple different places depending on how the game goes.
Yeah, I like that. That makes a lot of sense. Sorry if I'm screwing up the format here, but that, you know what, to all our pals who watch this show, you're just there's Grant screwing up the format again. That's kind of just how the show goes.
Stop. There's no format. We're
that is
we're
true.
Not quite doing it live, but we're sort of almost doing it live.
Giving too much credit to us even having a format. All right, fair enough.
Sure.
Okay, so my center backs we're overlapping on 50%. Tierna Davidson. Thought it was super rad that she wore the captain's armband for the first time in her career in an international match. I realized in our preview, I have a weird blind spot where I don't know if I'm going back in time to the 2019 World Cup, but sometimes I forget that Tierna Davidson has sneaky a lot of caps for the national team. I think it was her 66th cap when she wore the armband. So
wow.
I don't know. I have a weird blind spot on that. I know she's obviously an excellent player, but sometimes I forget about just how experienced she is. And she holds up well back there. I mean, we talk about her as Gurma's center back partner. She just does a lot of smart things back there. I think this is funny that we switched this, because pretty much most of my reasons for having Sonnet as her center back partner in this final versus Japan are pretty much what you said about Dunn. Is now we have Dunn on the bench, and she can kind of be our utility player if we need. But I like that center back pairing of Davidson and Sonnet, so that's what I went with.
All right, so this is our first break point. So we've got to make a call here. Actually, let's put a pin in it. Let's see how the rest of the lineup shakes out.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we have Sams and we have Sonnet as potential center backs. All right, who did you go with on the right?
Emily Fox. I believe she is the correct choice for your Gooners. Very curious who you might have on the right.
So this is fun. I actually had Giselle Thompson over Fox.
Oh, okay.
I know Fox is a staple of that backline for sure, and obviously a tremendous player. But Giselle Thompson was,
She played great.
she was unbelievable. Like,
Yeah.
she was just a handful. And you could imagine, right, if you're Australia, you're not probably spending a ton of time being like, all right, how do we stop Giselle Thompson? But they clearly didn't put any time into that because, Giselle was a force in that one. So I actually had her a smidge ahead of Emily Fox. I had her in my starting
Wow.
11, but now I get the best of both worlds. We get Giselle on the left, Fox on the right. So I think we're cooking.
Okay. I mean, yeah, if you're cool with that, then I am absolutely cool. I mean, I'm never going to deny Emily Sams a center back spot. So if we want to put Davidson, Sams, if we want to go Thompson, Davidson, Sams, Fox, it's a hell of a back four.
Well, let's hold off on Sam Sonnet until we have the full 11.
All right.
Because, I don't know. We might need to have some machinations, some moving pieces.
All right. Fair enough. Who you got in defensive midfield?
So there, I've got, I think you've got to put Claire Hutton there.
Oh, okay.
And I think you've got to put Lily Johannes there. If we're going 4-2-3-1, those are my two.
Okay.
I think Hutton, not only does she make great decisions, but she's got dynamite in her boot. Like, the ball just flies off her boot. Like, wherever she's trying to go with it, the ball gets there, like with certainty, pretty much. And she's always making good decisions. She's always in great position. She's always an outlet for whenever there's a little bit of trouble, the ball sort of like near the sideline, or maybe there's a press coming. She's always nearby to kind of like give the player on the ball an option, and then she's making great decisions from there. I thought she started tremendously well in the match, kind of cooled off a little bit as the tenor and the geometry of the game changed.
Yeah.
But I saw enough to be like, this is a player that, not going to be a great player. This is already a great player.
Right.
And a player that's probably going to push Sam Coffey for that spot a lot sooner than maybe people were expecting.
All right. Sam Coffey is definitely who I have. I thought we would agree on both of these. So that's a good curveball by you. And no disrespect to Claire Hutton. She is 19. Japan's going to come into this match and play lightning fast. You see how the way they move the ball in the attacking third. So I think whoever you have back there is going to have their hands full. I went with Coffey based on the experience, the way we saw her play in the Olympics, in the Gold Cup, and last year's SheBelieves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Sam Coffey came up huge in some of those Gold Cup matches. So my pairing was, as unsurprisingly, Sam Coffey, Lily Johannes. Like I said, in Sharpie, in the lineup, every big game, every roster, moving forward, Lily Johannes has to play. She was so impressive against Colombia. You can't keep her out of the match.
Yeah, no argument there. And to see Johannes against this Japan side,
mm-hmm.
And if we do get Hutton and Johannes, I have a feeling it's going to be Coffey, but if we do get Johannes and Hutton against Japan, I mean, we're going to learn a ton. I think that's a real big test from an international football standpoint.
Yeah.
So that'd be exciting to see. The one thing I'd say about Coffey is she does have the tendency to not be as accurate with her. She will kick a ball a few yards off target.
Sure.
And I think against this Japan side that can sort of flip the field really quickly, and can connect medium passes, long range passes, that could be a killer.
That's a good point.
I mean, I'm stacking a lot of ifs on top of each other, but I think in this matchup, if it's me, based on what I saw, I think Hutton gets the nod for me. So
love it.
Do we want to make a call so Lily's penciled in?
Yeah.
Onto the 3 in the 4-2-3-1.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with Alyssa Thompson on the left wing. I realize I'm skewing a little righty heavy, but I like her creativity out on the wing. I think her quickness is going to be important against Japan. So give me the youngster. We're starting the sisters in the final.
I don't hate this. And I think this would have been a surprising choice before watching that match. But I thought Alyssa Thompson played really well.
Yeah.
And she was really solid. But the kind of like the icing here is, no surprise, but the chemistry between Giselle and Alyssa off the charts. Yeah. I think they kind of like were heavily in sync. At some point, it looked like there were 3 or 4 Thompson sisters out there. So I like the pairing. I had Alyssa Thompson in my 11. So no arguments there. We are in agreement. She's in.
All right. This is where things are going to start to get a little interesting here. It might not seem like it at first, but I think once you start doing the math on how this works, at number 10, I have one Katarina Macario from Chelsea Football Club.
Let's go.
Realize what that means.
Cosine, 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 cosine.
She's in incredible form. She was dominant versus Colombia in the
Mm-hmm.
first match. I just don't think there's any way. And you know what? If you want to give her 60, 65, maybe 70, just to take care of her as she continues to build back from the injury, that's fine. But if I can get an hour of Macario minutes in the match, then I'm
Mm-hmm.
taking an hour of Macario minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had Macario too at my number 10. That bumps Lindsay Heaps down the list a bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, sidelines Jaden Shaw in this exercise. Well, at least for me. Well, a little spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had Macario at 10. Now, on the right, I might surprise you here. I might not. I had Emma Sears.
Okay. All right. You did surprise me a little bit. Tell me why.
I thought her aggressiveness and forcefulness on offense, like she had like a fearlessness, and she showed great ball skills. Like in tight spaces with pressure, she was able to kind of like squeeze through a couple tight spaces, distribute. She obviously gets the ball to Shaw, who then moves it along to Biandolo. But that whole opening goal was created by Sears' action,
Right.
and I think she's just tough to deal with, and a player that I think has a lot of room to grow, and I think is still ascending. I think it kind of feels like every time we see her, she's getting a little bit better.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think this moment's going to be too big for her against Japan. I think physically she, poses a tough matchup. She's going to be somebody that she's going to attract a lot of attention, and that should open things up for a lot of other attacking players. And I think based on, kind of like what we saw, I think she kind of earned that spot.
I love it. Yeah, you won't get any argument from me. I have a different player on the right wing, but still, I won't argue with Sears. I think you're right. She created that first goal. I had Yasmin Ryan. I love her form. There is something now. I don't know. We make our basketball comparisons here, and I just want to say on the front end, I believe overall, like pound for pound, Yasmin Ryan is a better player than this player. But is there something to the Evan Fournier comparison where Evan Fournier all of a sudden he puts on the France jersey and he's all of a sudden like a world beater? But Yasmin Ryan is good for Gotham too. But it's just, and hopefully she will be for Houston Dash. But I like the way Ryan is played. There's something about her that makes me feel like she'll be a big match kind of player as well.
Mm-hmm.
But to your physicality point, that could be important against Japan. The two that I was trying to decide between were Yasmin Ryan and honestly Michelle Cooper, because I have loved her game in this tournament so far. I've loved the minutes that she's gotten.
Damn.
But I think I'm fine with Sears. But really, between Ryan, Cooper, and Sears, Mike Watts kind of corrected me on this where he said, well, you could get it wrong. You can lose, talking about Emma Hayes making those choices. But honestly, my point to that is I don't think there's a player. If Hayes puts either Sears, Ryan, or Cooper there, I'm just not going to be at the end of the match and go, well, should have played the other one. Just totally play the result if they happen to lose or if they draw and lose on goal differential. I don't care about that. I think you could make a great case for any of those three.
I definitely agree with that. Cooper was awesome. Yasmin's been awesome as well. I think in spots for sure. I thought you were Evan Fournier. That one hurt a little bit. We could have gone Dennis Schroeder too for Germany, who plays real big internationally. I thought you were going to go maybe James Harden. kind of in the shadows a little bit, gets traded to Houston, and then kind of explodes a little bit. Some Team USA. I don't know. There's some. Maybe that might be overselling, but I think Yasmin Ryan's been great, and we definitely have not seen the best of her for the U.S. Women's National Team. So I think all three of those need to be in the mix. Let's pick our number 9, and then we'll kind of circle back to who we've got sharpied in, so to speak, and then we'll make some final decisions, and then we'll land on our final 11. So number 9, who you got?
I have a feeling we might overlap here. I have Ali Sentnor playing number 9.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah, she has to.
Let's go.
No, she's in too good a form right now. Let's just say you play Macario for 60 minutes and then you want to spell her. Honestly, if me and you were running the team and we ran this lineup out here and then we took Macario out at the 63rd minute and put in Jaden Shaw, I do feel like some people might throw things at us and say, why the fuck aren't you playing Lindsay Heaps? Obviously, people know Horan's resume. She's got the World Cup. She's got the multiple leagues. For Lyon, she has a league in the NWSL for the Thorns. She's a Champions League winner. The gold medal. She's got everything. but this is me and Dino's exercise here. We're playing some of the younger players. But if you went from Macario at number 10 and then Jaden Shaw at number 10, and we saw Shaw and Sentnor's creativity, I just think there's no other answer other than Ellie Sentnor at number 9.
Yeah, and I'm gonna distance myself from your take. I don't have any issue
Okay.
going Macario Shaw and having Heaps sort of like as a backup to the backup.
Sure.
And not to take anything away from the legend. Obviously, we all
course.
know her bona fides for sure. You probably got like 9 SheBelieves cups in her cupboard somewhere as well. But we've got to sort of like match fire for fire. And I think when you look at a player like Ali Sentnor and her emergence, and when we think back 10 days ago,
Yeah.
kind of having the conversation was like, all right, well, maybe there could be a player that kind of like explodes here and now becomes a player that has to be taken seriously, that almost writes their name into the 2027 roster. I mentioned almost. We had a couple of people on YouTube be like, "Yo, everybody pump the brakes a little bit." So, agreed. But Sentnor, I mean, it's hard not to get excited about a player like that. And Lindsay's probably somebody that kind of represents maybe a previous generation and like still has a role. But like in a match like this, you could. I don't think I wouldn't lose any sleep, no matter how the match goes, if she doesn't see the field because of just sort of the way the lineups break out. So let's go.
Let me say one thing here, real quick, just to be totally clear. There is a 0% chance that Lindsay Heaps does not start this game. Like she is 100%.
Whoa.
She's going to start. There's no way. I think you and I are right. And it doesn't mean we know anything about football compared to Emma Hayes.
That's interesting.
There's no chance that Heaps doesn't start. There's no way would Emma Hayes make that choice.
Damn. All right. Well, I mean, I'm a little taken aback by that just because what do you do? Like, so, I mean, she has to play at the 10.
Yeah.
So that means Macario's at 9,
yes.
Which means Sentnor is either on the wing or not in the starting lineup. Like,
I think the lineup that Hayes is going to play, at least let's just do the front 4, is Macario's going to be at the 9, Haran's going to be at the 10, Sentnor's going to be on the left wing, and then I think she'll play Yasmin Ryan or Emma Sears on the right. No, I don't think she'll start Alyssa Thompson.
Okay. That makes sense. I could see why you'd want to have Heaps over Alyssa Thompson. Fair enough. All right. We'll see what happens.
I'm going to say I'm on wax with it now. So if I'm totally off, I have the bold take that there's a 0% chance Hayes doesn't start Heaps. But I just don't think you can do that to your historical captain who's on the squad.
You got to do it at some point,
right?
It happens to everybody at some point. There's really great players. They move into a different role, and Heaps isn't. Hasn't really been a world beater for this team. She's a super solid player and like widely considered when you look at like sort of like the European centric list. She's always near the top of the list. She's great for Lyon, obviously.
Yeah.
But it kind of feels, I don't know, maybe like slightly like a different ballgame, but I'd be excited to see the line. I mean, this is going to be a much anticipated lineup for your boy. And especially now that we've gone through this exercise.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's sort of close out our list. So we've got Jane Campbell in the back, Giselle Thompson, Tierna Davidson, Emily Fox on the right, sharpied in, Lily Johannes sharpied in the midfield, Alyssa Thompson, Kat Macario, Ali Sentnor, 3 of the front 4 sharpied in. So we've got to make a decision between Emily Sams.
The Emilys.
Well, like I got so tripped up by that. The Emilys. I was like, what's happening here?
This can't be.
Emily Sam. So one of the Emily's is going to, there's only room for one Emily. Emily Sams, Emily Sonic. And then we've got to make a decision between Claire Hutton, Sam Coffey, and then we've got to make a decision between Emma Sears, Yasmin Ryan, Michelle Cooper. Based on the names that we've got, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I want to switch gears a little bit. Which do you feel strongest about?
I think I feel strongest because it's a cup final. And I again, Claire Hutton is an awesome player. Because it's a final, I think I want Sam Coffey in the lineup. Because I know for sure that she's been in these. But I would trade you if you want to put Hutton and Sams in there. Give me Yasmin Ryan up top, and I think I'm good.
I love Yasmin Ryan up top.
Okay.
I have no problem. I mean, I don't want to say she hasn't been put in the best position, but she's squeezed the most out of the opportunities that she's been given over these first couple. So I'm happy to like lock in Yasmin Ryan. and I'm definitely happy to take Claire Hutton. That Hutton was actually the one I felt strongest about.
Oh, okay.
Because
Yeah.
I think we saw Hutton and Coffee obviously play the same position, and you would have wanted to see Coffee kind of like, I don't want to say do more, but I didn't walk away from that one anywhere near as impressed with like kind of what Sam Coffee did in comparison to what Claire Hutton did. I thought Claire Hutton was tremendous and just played like a player that could do whatever she wanted. Like kind of has some of those Johannes vibes. Like I can do anything here. I can put the ball wherever I want it.
Right.
But I definitely agree with your Sam Coffey big game experience there. And I don't think there's a wrong answer, but I definitely feel, I don't know. I think Hutton kind of has that young prodigy, like it's like Australia's really struggling to kind of get a hold of this player.
Yeah.
So let's call it. We'll take Yasmin, we'll take Claire Hutton, and then we've got to make a decision on the Emilys here.
I could go either way. I mean, I'm a huge fan of both, obviously.
Let me mention one quick thing. If we have Lily and Claire Hutton in the midfield, that's a young midfield.
Right.
That could be an argument to kind of go your way and maybe look at Sonnet.
I think that's totally fair. And it's actually funny that you say that because I was thinking kind of the same thing earlier. Like, okay, if we're going to have two teenagers as our double pivot midfielders, you probably want Davidson and Sonnet kind of backing them up.
All right. I love it. Okay. Back to front. Campbell, Giselle Thompson, Tierna Davidson, Emily Sonnet, Emily Fox. Well, there's 3 Emilys back there in the mix. Lily Johannes, Claire Hutton, Alyssa Thompson, Kat Macario, Yasmin Ryan, Ali Sentnor. Zero chance. I'll say this: 0 chance. This is the actual.
No chance.
Actual lineup.
Yeah, no way.
All right, I feel comfortable saying that. Wonderful. I think we crushed it.
Yes, well done by you. And for everybody who was probably listening to us go, oh yeah, it's only between 2 Emilys, Emily Sams and Emily Sonnet. I guarantee there are people going, Fox, you idiots. Fox, Emily Fox, you dummies. But that's okay. You know what? We never said we were going to be good at this.
No, I mean, yeah, we're tucking center backs here. What are we like? Come on now. Give us a break. Let's shift gears here. I want to talk a little bit about Japan, who's looked incredible and I think extremely dangerous. I mentioned it earlier. I think what they do is they just stretch you. Like basically there's not a spot on the field where they're not threatening you just because they've got the accuracy, pinpoint accuracy to put the ball wherever they want. And if there's a spot in the field, it could be 20 yards up and 30 yards over. If somebody's out in space, the ball's going there, whether it's just one pass or two, and now you're on your heels trying to kind of defend that. So they really make you defend the entire field and make it really, really hard. And as they stretch you, they're just kind of cutting through wherever there's like a little lane. They're just kind of grabbing at that. I think they've been excellent. What level of problems can this Japan side create for U.S. Women's National Team?
They can kick your ass. No matter what team you are in the world, they can end up kicking your ass. Like they can really, I love the way you describe no matter where they are on the field, they can cause you problems. They can stretch your defense. And it's just because all the little pockets of players that they have all over the field are capable of playing 1-2s to each other. And it's immediate. It's pass and move, pass and move, pass and move. No matter where they are on the field, there were a couple goals where it was like a 1-2 here. And then as the other player, they're the one who gives the first pass. They're already streaking into open space. The player who received the ball is playing a 1-2 with another player who's then playing the through ball in. And, every announcer says, oh, beautiful football, great movement, whatever. We've all done it, probably playing FIFA and various video game systems. It works because defenses can never quite figure it out in the moment. It's no matter what level of football you're playing, it works every time when you execute it well. And so they are just capable of doing that, like you said, in any spot of the field, and they can do it to you in a way that like you're seemingly not expecting, even though you are trying to play defense against it.
Yeah, I mean, they just make you defend. We talked about this with Barcelona and their defense, a little bit with Lyon as well, where they just take away your second and your third and your fourth look.
Yeah.
Japan is almost the inverse of that, where it's like they always have a second and a third and a fourth look to go to.
Right.
And so you feel like you have things covered. You're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. You're a little triangle here. And then the triangle becomes like some sort of weird parallelogram, and now you're getting beat, and now they're scoring.
Yep. No, 100%. And I mean, they just have absolute genius players who are able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about some of those genius players. So we're not going to recap the two smashings that they administered to Colombia and Australia, but I do want to hit on a couple players to watch going to the final. As mentioned, your boys will be live after the final, so this is de facto our preview of the final.
Sure.
So we want to give you a couple players to keep an eye on. Let's do a little mini draft. I want to do two. I want you to do two. I'll kick it to you just to kind of give you the first pick.
You're too gracious, my good man. I appreciate that. I will take the number one pick, and you'll probably yell at me for it, but I think it's got to be Micah Hamano. I mean, she has the ability to be the best player on the field. Are you surprised by this? Was she not on your board?
She was not on my board. Obviously, she scores a goal. Holy shit!
No, they're stacked. Yeah, they're so stacked.
5 players on my board. Hamano obviously scores. And a real difference maker at Chelsea, but wasn't in my 5 that I'm kind of keeping an eye on. This is wild. All right. Tell me why Micah Hamano, I mean, not that I need to know, but tell us why Micah Hamano is somebody that is going to scare you come Wednesday night.
I mean, even as an Arsenal supporter, I know you are somewhat of a Chelsea admirer on the women's game. Yeah, I mean, my first note about her is she can win the game for Japan, like on her own. Mm-hmm. She had like her ability to hit from distance, to play players in, to run into dangerous areas, all the stuff that we talked about that are absolute staples of the Japanese attack. She does all those things for Chelsea Football Club. I just think that she has the ability to uncork a upper 90 shot, from the top of the 18 that no keeper is going to be able to save. And so I just think that, whether it's Coffee and Johannes or Hutton and Johannes, Hutton and Coffee, whatever the combo is, they're going to have their hands full with Hamano.
Absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, tremendous player. I had a 1A, 1B on my list. I got to go Momoko Tanakawa.
Yeah, sure.
When you talk about uncorking from the top of the 18, Tanakawa uncorked from about 40 yards.
Yes.
Like 16 seconds into the match. Fastest goal in the history of SheBelieves Cup. We've seen her wreck games for Bayern. We saw her wreck games for Rosengard. I mean, I'll admit, you called her a superstar, I think 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily recoil at that, but I kind of filed it away. I'm like, okay, she's really good, really exciting player. Now I'm like, is she going to be on Barcelona next year? What's the ceiling for this player? Because I'm not sure we're seeing players do things at this same level, at this same frequency, with this level of audacity and just the power, the creativity, the fearlessness, the accurate. Like, this is wild. Like, she's just, talk about a player who could win the match, win the cup, she's right there with Hamano. Absolutely. Just an explosive player.
Yeah, no doubt. We talked about her before, Golden Boot winner in the Damallsvenskan this summer. It was like, oh, okay, played my summer football. Now time to go back from the loan back to Bayern Munich and play in the Champions League. So, yeah, she can win that. It's a funny question to ask. Could she play for Barcelona next year? I wouldn't put it past any footballer to want to do that. But, we have great Japanese restaurants here in Seattle, Washington. And if Momoko Tanakawa would like to come to the beautiful Pacific Northwest, we would welcome her with open arms.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. San Francisco too. My babes. Wow. Talk about that later.
Sure.
All right. Who's next up on your list of players to watch?
I'm going to go with Moeka Minami. And the reason I choose the Roma center back is she's going to have her hands full with the USA attack. And I think if you're looking for weaknesses in this Japanese side, I think it's going to have to be in that back four. Now, you got to get there. You got to get the ball from them and not get it stolen and then get killed on the counterattack. But I think Minami is really, like, if she is matched up against Sentinor, who might not have a decided size advantage over her, but we've talked about the way Sentinor plays tough and plays bigger than she is. Kat Macario is going to have a substantive size advantage over Minami. So I think that's something that I'm really looking at, and that if I'm Emma Hayes in this situation, how can we attack the center backs in any way possible?
Yeah, that's a great call. And I think we've seen Minami in Roma. Like, she plays in every big game that they're involved in. And she also gets a goal here in the first one against Australia late in that one. So she's definitely active from front to back. And that leads me to my second pick, I got to go with Hikaru Kitagawa.
Nice.
27 years old, signs with BK Häcken this past season. So we didn't get a chance to see her a ton in the Champions League. 2 assists versus Australia. And she's another one of those players that, I don't know, put the ball right there, 35 yards up the field, and I've got a little bit of space and a couple seconds to kind of collect myself and try to make it happen. And she's putting the ball exactly where she wants it. A super dangerous player, solid defensively, kind of like in her athletic prime. I think that's going to be a player to watch, at that left back position. Could put pressure, on the U.S. defense. She can kind of like drive it deep as well. And like, if you don't step up and kind of stop the ball, like she can really kind of make you pay, and just gives her more and more options to kind of distribute to.
I love it. She was on my board as well, because now you think she is playing left back for Japan. So what's going to win the day? Is it going to be Kitagawa playing up, playing forward, and the U.S. having to adjust to that? Or how often are Emily Fox or maybe Giselle Thompson on that right-hand side, and then whoever your right winger is, are they going to be able to keep Kitagawa pinned back? I think that's going to be a very interesting chess match throughout the match.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a matchup to watch for sure. Did you have any honorable mentions?
Alba Fujino. I mean, you already know what time it is with me. I mean, she hasn't scored a goal yet. So I don't know if that makes people think like, oh, okay, she's not playing that great. She looks good out there. In the first 2 matches, she's helped set stuff up. And if she hasn't uncorked one yet, I don't know if she might be due. So I would keep an eye out for her.
Dude, I'm so happy. This is wild. I'm going to read you my notes specifically on Fujino. Nothing explosive yet. Feels like she might be due. And at the very least, defensively, you have to respect her.
Yeah. I mean, no, that's all facts. And she's been in good form for City recently. And she's looked good in these 2 matches. It's only a matter of time before you get the explosion. So I think, if you're USA, you got to really watch out.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely be watching Fujino. A couple other names here I want to hit real quick. Yui Hasegawa, she gets the hockey assist on the Micah Hamano goal versus Australia. Plays the full 90 plus against Australia. Doesn't play versus Colombia. So we might get a fresh Yui Hasegawa to kind of deal with. Could make things tough for the U.S. women's national team. And how about Mina Tanaka?
Yeah, I mean,
Mentioned 6th or 7th in our draft. Only 4 goals and 2 assists. Yeah. Also draws a penalty, buries the penalty kick, sends the keeper the wrong way. No big deal. Comes in 7th or 8th on our big board of players to watch. Unbelievable collection of talent for Japan.
Yeah, absolutely outstanding. We didn't mention Saki Kumagai, who played against Australia. I don't know if this is a Kumagai game. Obviously, an absolute legend. I'm interested to see Yui play. Like if Hasegawa is out there, she's going to have some of the same matchup issues with Macario and Sentnor, that I talked about with Minami. But they have to figure it out. I mean, and Hasegawa makes up for that size disadvantage in situations with unbelievable intelligence and great ball skills. So yeah, this is just set up to be an absolute banger.
Oh my God, yeah, I totally agree. I think this is going to be a legendary matchup that I think we think about and are kind of thinking about for a while. And it wasn't that long ago that Japan thrashed 23 World Cup champion Spain in the group stage, had Spain's head spinning. And then Spain goes on to win the World Cup. Japan kind of bounced out in disappointing fashion. So they've definitely been knocking on the door. Could be, like a real clash of the Titans here. Very excited about that. As mentioned, we will be live after this massive clash. Japan on absolute fire. Roughly 12:30 a.m. Eastern. Your boy's going to, maybe sneak in a little late night latte, maybe a triple espresso for your boy, just in respect for our American heroes that we're missing out on. 9:30 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you're following us on the YouTube so you can kick it with your boys. For the audio files, the show will be up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen shortly thereafter. All right, man, anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think we did it, man. I think we talked about a lot of players. I think we talked about the matches pretty in depth. I think we could go on for hours, but this is probably the right stopping point.
All right, man. I think we did do it. It's been another episode into the channel. Thanks for hanging out with your boys. Like if you liked, make sure you're kicking it with us every single week. Subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. We want to hear from you. We love hearing from you. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. Links to all of our socials, except one, in the show notes of this episode. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Grand Angle, for always being in championship form. I appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, buddy. You know what? We're out here. We're playing like veterans, even though I guess maybe in the grand scope of football podcasting, we're a little younger. Maybe the only thing in life where we're still a little younger. So we appreciate all you guys rocking with us, and we will see you all next time.